All right, let's jump right in. We're talking about a situation where NATO, the bedrock of Western security, isn't just showing a few cracks. It's about to completely fall apart. And the crazy part? The epicenter of this whole earthquake is this massive, frozen island way up in the North Atlantic.
I mean, it sounds like the plot of a blockbuster movie, right? But this isn't fiction. This question is deadly serious. We're going to dig into how a giant slab of ice could actually push the most powerful military alliance in history to the absolute edge. So let's set the scene. Imagine it's 2026. The US has gone all in on this super aggressive America First policy. And out in the freezing cold waters around Greenland, there's a standoff. But here's the twist. It's not against some common enemy. No, it's between NATO allies. We're talking the US facing off against its oldest and closest friends in Europe.
So, you're probably wondering, how on earth did we get here? Well, this didn't just pop up out of nowhere. It all kicked off back in 2019 with what everyone thought was just a weird joke, the US trying to buy Greenland. Fast forward to 2025, and the tone got way more serious. The US started calling Danish control a historical anomaly, and then, bam, by early 2026, it's a full-on crisis. You've got European troops actually landing on Greenland to stare down their biggest ally. People are literally calling it the divorce. And look, this is not just some media beat-up. The stakes could not be higher. Denmark's own Prime Minister, Mette Frederiksen, laid it out in the clearest way possible. She said a hostile takeover by the US would mean the end of NATO. Full stop, game over.
Which brings us to the billion-dollar question, right? Why? What in the world is buried under all that ice that would make the United States risk a 75-year-old alliance? Well, you're about to find out it's not just about owning more land, it's about what's inside that land. And that's where we get to the first piece of the puzzle, the treasure. We're talking about a global race, a high-stakes treasure hunt for what are basically the building blocks of our entire modern world. Okay, so what are these rare earth elements anyway? Think of them like the secret spices of technology. You only need a tiny pinch, but without that pinch, the whole recipe is ruined. Your phone doesn't work, your electric car doesn't run. A fighter jet is just a hunk of metal. They are absolutely essential.
Want some perspective? That number right there, 417 kilograms. That's how much of this stuff you need for just one F-35 fighter jet. That's almost half a ton. Without it, the most advanced plane in the sky is basically a very expensive paperweight.
And this is where it gets really scary for the US. See, they don't have a secure supply of their own. Why? Because China has a complete stranglehold on processing these things. We're talking 85% of the global market. For the Pentagon, that's a nightmare scenario. A single point of failure that could shut down the entire US military.
So, what's the solution? Where can you go to break free from that? Well, all eyes turned to Greenland. It's not just an option. For the US, it is the option. Geologists think this island is sitting on potentially the world's second biggest stash of these materials, and not just any, but the really valuable, heavy rare earths.
So, the US plan seems pretty simple, right? Get to Greenland, start digging, and break China's monopoly. Easy peasy. But there's a problem. A big one. The US wasn't the only player in this game. Turns out, Europe and China were already there. Which brings us to the next stage of this showdown. A geopolitical mining duel, a battle between two competing projects, two totally different visions for the future.
Okay, let's break it down. In one corner, you've got Project Cavanishfield. It's huge, backed by an Australian company, but their partner is Chinese state-owned. Big red flag. Plus, it's got a uranium problem, which is a total no-go for Greenland's government, so license denied. But in the other corner, you have Tonbreeze. This one is US-owned, it's clean, no uranium, and you guessed it, it got its license.
So for the US, Tonbreeze was the perfect play. It was their champion, a project they could get behind, that was American-controlled, and that was clean enough to get around all the environmental red tape that stopped the Chinese-backed project in its tracks. It was basically their golden ticket.
And this is where you see the US master plan take shape. This isn't just about one mine. No, this is about building a whole new supply chain, one that's totally free of China. Step 1, dig the stuff up in Greenland under US control. Step 2, ship it to Saudi Arabia for processing. Step 3, send the finished product straight to the American defense industry. And who's been left out of this little arrangement? Yep, Europe. Completely cut out of the loop.
But here's the thing. As important as all these minerals are, it's still not enough to explain why the US would risk blowing up NATO. There's something else going on. Another reason that's way more urgent.
And honestly, way more terrifying. This is where we get to the second reason, the fortress. Because in the game of global power, geography is everything. And Greenland isn't just a giant mine. It's the most important piece of military real estate on the entire planet.
Just think about it for a second. If Russia or China wanted to launch a missile at the United States, what's the shortest route?
It's not east, it's not west, it's straight over the North Pole. And what's sitting right there in the middle of that flight path? Greenland. It's the front door to North America. Whoever controls that island controls the gate.
And of course, the US has a plan for that gate. It's a massive project called Golden Dome. We're not just talking about a few new radar dishes. This is a next-generation missile shield designed to stop the scariest new weapons out there, hypersonics. The catch? To make it work, they have to blanket Greenland with sensors and interceptors. And to do that, the US feels like it needs total, unquestioned control, no asking for permission from Denmark.
Okay, so at this point, it looks like game over, right? The US has the motive, the means, Europe seems totally cornered. But not so fast, because Europe has one last card to play. A secret weapon so powerful it could bring the entire US tech industry and its military to its knees.
And that brings us to the final chapter, the counterattack. Europe knows it can't win a military fight with the US, so they're not even going to try. Instead, they're preparing for a totally different kind of battle.
First up, they made a move on the ground, a symbolic one. Under this banner, Operation Arctic Endurance, major European players, France, Germany, the UK, they sent small groups of their own soldiers to Greenland. Now, this isn't an invasion force. It's what military folks call a tripwire. The idea is that if the US makes an aggressive move, they won't just be pushing Greenland around, they'll be bumping into French, German, and British soldiers. The political price for that? Sky high.
But that tripwire was just for show. Europe's real weapon, their ace in the hole, is a company most people have never even heard of, ASML. This little Dutch company has a total 100% global monopoly on the machines, the only machines that can make the world's most advanced computer chips. Without ASML, you can forget about new iPhones, forget about powerful AI from NVIDIA, and forget about the guidance systems in those F-35s we were talking about.
And that right there is the endgame. It's basically a 21st century version of mutually assured destruction. Only this time it's not nuclear, it's economic. The US needs ASML's machines for its entire economy and military to function. And Europe needs the rare earth minerals that the US wants to lock down in Greenland. It's a standoff. Each side has a chokehold on the other. So all of this leaves us with a really uncomfortable question. This whole crazy crisis over a giant frozen island, does it mean our old alliances are dead? You know, the ones built on things like shared values and democracy? Are we now in a new world where all that matters isn't what you believe, but what you can dig out of the ground?